Welcome to the Decide Your Legacy podcast, helping individuals and businesses unleash their potential. Join us every episode as host Adam Gregg discusses what is holding us back and how to find hope for moving forward. Along the way, we discuss developing healthy relationships and navigating life transitions while overcoming fear, stress, and anxiety. Live the life you want, the legacy you decide.
Good is the enemy of the great. I'm addicted to distraction. I kid you not. I'm embarrassed about it. I'm a victim to, and I allow myself to be victimized by the algorithms that suck my attention in, whether any kind of technology. I waste time. I feel depleted. I feel defeated when it happens. Like, I know better. And recently, in fact, this morning, I blocked out an hour of my time to work on preparing for podcasts and content creation. And I set an alarm for 30 minutes. And then I realized I got sucked into something. And then my alarm went off and I realized I had only spent half my time actually being focused on this thing that I wanted to work on, the creation of content. I realized that something is an addiction when I get defensive about it and I'm not willing to address it. Like, you start by healing from an addiction by admitting it's a problem. You can't heal anything you don't admit to. You can't deal with anything you don't admit needs to be dealt with. So that's how I know that I can be addicted to distraction, because I can get defensive about it. So welcome to the episode 123 of the Decide Your Legacy podcast. Today's episode is on You Own Your Attention. This is part 2, and this is the second part of a 2-part series. You own your attention. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to the first part if you haven't already done so. In the first part of You Own Your Attention, I talk about your morning routine, your evening routine, and how you need to deal with fear, to owning your attention, to fighting that fight, to taking it back. So I'm your host, Adam Gregg. I'm a coach, a content creator, and a speaker. I'm also a licensed mental health professional and have been for 25 years. I talk about stuff I struggle with myself. I'm a fellow traveler. I don't have it all figured out. I also talk about stuff that you can share with your 6-year-old and they're going to understand it. Simple, inspiring content that I need to hear. It's for me as well as it is for you. So I want to share something uncomfortable that I've done recently, because I don't believe that anything is more important to your mental health than facing your fears. On the other side of fear, you grow confidence. On the other side of fear, you grow competence. You're not going to feel competent at first, and it's going to take courage to face those fears, but it's exciting to see what happens. It's so inspiring to see the growth that I get to see in other people when they face their fears. Nothing's more damaging to your mental health than playing it safe. I went to a coffee shop today and I asked strangers questions. And as non-weirdo a way as possible, the question that I asked people in the coffee shop today was, what is the best advice that you would give to somebody, gut level advice on how to not be distracted? They come to you and say they're really distracted in their life. They're pulled in so many different directions, and you give them your best piece of advice. So here's what I heard. 3 pieces of advice. One was simple kind of thing, but I realized that a lot of people don't actually do this. Just turn the notifications completely off on your phone so that your phone never notifies you. Your Apple Watch never notifies you of anything. And that was their advice to me. You don't have to do that. That's just what they said. Said it helps them. Another person said that they block things into 20 to 30-minute chunks. So they have in their job sales calls to make, and they have client retention calls to make, and they have content creation things to do, and they block it off so that they're always jumping into new types of tasks. And they realized that was very motivating to them, and the best piece of advice. The other person said to count the cost. That's what I would tell them, to count the cost of knowing this is robbing you of joy in your life, and to know that being distracted is not helping you. So this is the podcast that you do, not just listen to. So that means you get to take an action that'll make you uncomfortable as well, like I did when I talked to strangers today. The question for you is, when did you last beat yourself up because you were wasting time in your life? And how was it being wasted? Write that down or speak it into your phone. When did you do it last? Maybe it was this morning. It probably was. And that'll help you recognize that it's causing you some discouragement in your life by being distracted. So when you take ownership of something, you make sure that you are the one who has the primary influence over that specific task. When you take 30% ownership of something, then you have 30% investment in that task potentially. Now, if you take 100% ownership of something, that means that a lot is at stake. So I have found that it's not easy for people at times to grow up where there's some wealth in their family because they always have this backdrop that they lean on potentially. And it takes a great deal of courage to cut that off and be the one who's totally providing for themselves. And I don't know if somebody can truly become an entrepreneur unless they have said, I am the person who is completely responsible for my level of income in my life. I am the person who's responsible for my business succeeding. I am the person. That is a great freeing thing and a scary thing as well to get rid of the safety blanket and actually jump in. So there's three pillars that you can apply to take ownership and influence and maximize your impact of your attention. 100% ownership. One is your emotions, two is your physical space, and three are your connections, your relationships. So let's talk about your emotions. Emotions are a driving factor in you making progress in your life. You have to control or you have to channel your emotions into whatever you're moving towards. So if you want to break a bad habit, find the emotional connection. I've had times of great fear in my life where I have found that the fear goes away as I've channeled my emotional connection. I've also seen that if I'm finding a person, let's say a relationship, somebody I'm connecting with, a new friend, or a romantic relationship, like I go out on a date and I like somebody and it's channeled into something, I can find that all my attention can go towards being much more productive in my professional life because I feel so good about that situation relationally. Or I have a great time with some friends and I connect with a buddy over coffee and really connect. And it's like I have a emotional connection, and then I'm motivated in my professional life because I don't feel alone right now. And we know that somebody is missing out on the best parts of their life when they're not making an emotional connection, which you can't do with your phone and you can't do with a lot of the superficial aspects of life, the addictive parts of life. They're not really connecting you with people and they're not connecting you to your emotions. So an example of this is I am going on a trip with my daughter, and I've done a number of these trips. We've gone to Europe a couple times. We're going to Washington, D.C., to New York City, to Montreal, and to Hudson, New York. Hudson, because my sister and her aunt and uncle live in Hudson. Then we're going to Montreal. And we can dream about this trip. It helps me to stay focused when I'm dreaming about going to see Hamilton, the show with her on Broadway. The tickets were super expensive, but I'm excited about the adventure to go see this show on Broadway because she's never been. And we're also going to go see The Great Gatsby on Broadway as well. And I'm super excited about it. Another example of this is a coworker, not a client, told me that he was supervising somebody that's really grouchy, really talented person, and was saying to me, I don't know if they'll ever change because they're negative and they are negative towards other people. And then we talked about it some, and I was asking him about this. Well, what is going to motivate this guy, and what is he good at, or what do you think he really could you do or say to him that would channel his emotion towards moving towards a bigger and better goal? And as I talked, he realized the guy's lonely, and he also realizes the guy wants to connect. Like he truly wants to have good relationships, but he pushes everybody away. Probably has some history with that. Then I asked him what questions he could ask this person he supervises. And he at first said he could make some comments saying, well, you know how you come across to other people that you work with? They're not going to be around you because of the way you treat them. But then we channeled into the emotion and I asked, well, that's one thing. That's one way of influencing by correcting. But what if you asked him and he came up with this on his own, like he thought, well, I could ask him, how do you believe you could handle this better in the future? Because this guy was a leader of a department. So how do you believe you could handle it better? That would be inspiring to your team. Because the guy admitted he had been discouraging to other people that work for him. And then that would give him insight because he would start thinking. When you ask a great question, there's a pause to it. So you can channel into your own emotions by asking yourself questions where there's a pause. You have to think. You have to realize that there's some stuff going on that you got to think about. And then you realize that you can see where you're excited in your own life. So, a way you can apply this is you can journal and dream and ask your own self some own questions. And one of those questions would be to ask yourself, well, what do I want ideally in this situation? That would help me. So you're having trouble focusing. So figure out in your life what you want ideally in your life and how you would feel if you had that or you were moving forward towards it, because you don't want to measure progress by actually reaching the ideal. You'll be discouraged forever because you'll never get to the ideal. Measure progress backwards. How far have I come to get to where I want to go? If you want to be a better golfer, you measure your progress based on where you were yesterday as a golfer, not where you want to be, because you may want to be a scratch golfer. You may never be a scratch golfer, but you measure your progress backwards because now you went to the driving range and you're hitting the ball a little bit straighter, or you're hitting the ball a little bit more consistently. That's how you measure progress. So connect with the emotion, whoever it is. So as a father, if I ask questions that help my daughter see what she's excited about, rather than lecturing her or telling her what to do, I ask her with genuine concern and genuine curiosity what she wants or what she's excited about. I get to know her better. I get to see what she is passionate about more at a higher level, but I'm being curious. I'm not judging. One of the lowest forms of influencing other people is correcting them, because you have to have a level of trust for them to be able to accept correction from you. Building that trust is going to mean you've emotionally connected with them. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is your environment. So now I have different environments in my small 1,000 square foot apartment. I have a front porch, I have a back porch, a very small front porch, but it's a place I can put a chair. I have a back porch where I have two chairs and I have planters and flowers. I have an office, I have a living room, I have a bedroom, I have two bathrooms, I have two bedrooms, and I have a place on a kitchen counter. I have a kitchen table, and all these environments channel my energy in different ways. I've made them into a place and a space that I like. I have different pieces of artwork that are nature. One is of Yosemite, one is of another national park, the Mountains in North Carolina, which I haven't actually been to, but I have a picture of it right there because it's a relaxing place to me. And I eliminate distractions in these environments. So if I go to my back porch, I didn't bring my phone and I had a timer as I focused on getting a project done out there, which was a work project, but it was a thing getting me ready for the day. I did a really good job of focusing there. I like to have decluttered environments and take the time to declutter. So I make sure that I can engage when I'm in that space. Helps me tremendously, but not only will it help me, but it'll help you. You just may not know it yet. This is a way that we can eliminate and minimize the distractions in our lives because we're in an environment that's relaxing and is really kind of cool. So if I am going to have a time of meditation, which I do that, I actually have a yellow cushion. I think a special, I rarely use it obviously, or I wouldn't be actually having trouble identifying the brand. I have used it at times. And if I just sit and want to be still, I'm not like person who meditates consistently. To me, I don't think it's a weird thing whatsoever. To me, it's sitting there with my eyes closed and my arms crossed and just focusing on my breathing, but having a place and a space. I do have a corner of my family room where I do that. I'm sharing a lot of information with you today. This is interesting. I want to potentially maybe show you some pictures of these spaces because they are relaxing to think about. And you can do that for yourself as well. Pixar, the company, is known for creating spaces for their employees where they can really focus. And there are other companies I know as well. You find that people are particular in how they want the spaces to feel. It's like a golf club, and even the grips on the golf clubs and how they look and feel as you look at them has an impact on the golfer. They want to feel comfortable. That's why new drivers come out. That's why new putters come out, new equipment comes out. I like watching videos of pros using like Walmart clubs or clubs that they bought at Walmart that they'd never seen before. There's one I was watching yesterday of Bryson DeChambeau. He was hitting them really well. Kind of cool to see that kind of stuff. But to feel comfortable in a high pressure situation, the environment's going to have more of an impact. Can you create spaces? I know that for me, I have found that when I go home and I'm in my parents' house, love them dearly, But I have times where I want to make sure I have my own space. So I leave early in the morning and I go to Starbucks. That's an environment that I feel good about, and I can declutter my brain when I go there. If everybody else is doing something else, like my daughter's actually playing with her cousins or with my parents, I'll have some space. If I know that I'm not going to have enough space, then when I go to family events, whether it's in New Orleans or whether it's with my parents in Folsom, California, I will get a hotel room, and I'll make sure I always have my own rental car so I can get away. And that is important for me. Or I can actually have some times where I can get stressed out. I don't want that to happen. And when I get stressed out, I focus poorly, and I get consumed in negativity, which my phone can suck me into, or other worrying is an addiction that I can have as well. And I know that can actually occur. So for you, I'd like to challenge you to, in your house, create a space right now. Or if it's decluttering a space you already actually have, that can help you to focus so you can get the right music played. I have a playlist. I like to listen to certain songs. I have one playlist that I've been listening to lately that's really encouraging. Even one song on that playlist that I found incredibly motivating to me. I can certainly pop that song into the show notes, but it's called Mistral, Mistral, by Stefan Macchio, Moccio. It's been motivating. I don't know. For some reason, I can listen to that on repeat, and it's been kind of motivating, inspiring for me. I like my 7-Up bottles, nature pictures. You figure out what will motivate you in that environment. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is I have found that connection with people helps me to not be distracted. You can think of distraction and addiction as synonymous in many ways. At least it is to me. I had a conversation with my friend Ben yesterday on the phone, and I talk to him frequently. I can notice my attention being channeled into these much more productive actions because I've gotten recalibrated by having a conversation with him. It's inspiring and energizing to me. I find that there's an emotional connection that occurs because of that connection, that relationship. Think back to when you really first connected with your spouse and how productive you probably were. Maybe you were thinking about them all the time, but you find these connections that are life giving, that are energizing for you. And what I find is, when I'm around disciplined, focused people, I've been in mastermind groups. I have a mastermind type group that I lead with Decide Your Legacy. And I find I'm so inspired and focused to do the right thing and to be doing these things that are going to minimize the distractions in my life just naturally. I play golf with my dad sometimes, and he's a very focused person. So I can go and play 9 holes or 18 holes really fast, even though he's 85 years old. There's no dilly-dallying. When I play golf with a bunch of guys at a men's club at the golf course I go to frequently, I find that there's no distracting stuff that goes on, and it's more enjoyable for me in this environment because I'm around focused people. Find systems that keep you focused. Like I said, I like to set my phone for 30 minutes or an hour, and then I take a break. And that break is usually connecting with somebody, a phone call or a text message or send a picture or send a video. And I'm notorious for that. I don't know how many books I've sent to people. I don't know how many videos I've sent to people or funny things that I've texted to people because I've been doing this for longer than actually, and I don't do it on Facebook. I do it through text, but I love that kind of stuff. It's so energizing to me. Just take the time, hey, this picture, connect with a friend, something. And I've made the connection that this is what keeps me focused the most because I have this 5-minute break after I'm focusing on something, and then I'm connecting with other people and getting some encouragement. Then I'm getting focused again. And I'm trying to mix it up with different types of tasks. So it's not, for me at least, I will do 2 hours focused on the same task, and I'll try to mix it up with a new task. I will generally not do an entire day focused on one task. I know that works for some people, but I can do a half a day, but it's usually at the most. It's 2 hours, sometimes a half a day. But I'm getting focused, but the connection is helping me to have that focus. So the action you can take here, if you want to work on this, is to identify people in your life who are focused and who help you to remain focused because they energize you with that positive, encouraging, motivated type of energy. I've had people around my life who are toxic. They have been people who at times have motivated me, but then eventually they become draining and soul depleting. And it's not something that I need to engage in because I have found that maybe they were givers at a point, but now they're takers. And I got to be careful with that. So you have this level of assessing those people that you're spending time with consistently and seeing where they're at, because they may come back around and become a giver at that point, or maybe you're the taker and you need to correct that as you assess them and those connections you're going to see. And that's going to help you start to weed out. This process of going out in the garden and saying, there's a weed, that needs water. I'm going to help that grow. And you're starting to do the things that cultivate and create the ability for you to have much more better attention focus in your life. So you're taking it back. It's going to be a shift that you're going to start noticing quickly, I would say in a couple of days, but it's going to take a while to make these shifts permanent and to create these habits. But it's so worth it because you're taking back your attention. It is something that you own. If you want to work on this, put some of your attention into this mini course that I've created just for you. This is called Shatterproof Yourself. Hit the link. It's 7 steps to a giant leap in your mental health. And you can focus. It's a 30-minute video and worksheet. And one of the sections here is on knowing your true value. That's the 3rd step in shatterproofing yourself. And you're going to find out some things you love about yourself that you can put energy and focus into. And this will help you build relationships. It'll help you have a vision. It'll help you be excited about your life. You're going to gain information, inspiration, and you'll be inspired to take action. You have the ability to own your attention. You can do so by connecting with the emotion to make the change. If you want to make a change, connect with the emotion that'll take back your attention. What is it that you want, and how will you feel when you get there? You can make the shift by making sure that you focus on your environment and make some tweaks to make it easier for you to focus, whether that's not having your phone in your room or a TV in your room, which I don't, and having an old school alarm clock or turning off your watch or your notifications. You do something to make the environment easier for you to focus in, or your office at work, you declutter, or you create a situation in your environment where you are more able to focus. And then you make connections, and you see the tremendous value in making these soul-filling connections with people who are focused and who are filling you up, that are helping you to stay focused on the most important things in your life. The good in your life is the enemy of the great. I want you to focus on the great in your life, not the excuses that you give yourself to be distracted. I want you to eliminate those things. Who are those people that are going to fill you up and who are going to help you connect with your, not only yourself, but connect with your goals and to move forward? So which of these 3 pillars, emotion, environment, and connection, is the hardest for you to cultivate? The most challenging for you? Go ahead and write it down in the notes, in the section where you can fill in the blank here. Write it down. What is the most challenging on this video, from this video? What's the most challenging one for you? And whatever it is that is challenging for you is probably going to be something that you can work on today. So what insight do you have about how you can make that stick that you can start applying today? 20% of transformational change is insight. You're gaining insight. 80% is action. Doesn't mean much unless you have results. What are you doing to move it forward? So an okay plan that you act on is 100 times better than a great plan that you do nothing with. If you really want it to stick, apply it today and then talk to somebody about it. Teach it to your 6-year-old. Teach it to your 16-year-old. Teach it to your 65-year-old mother. Teach it to your 75-year-old grandmother. To somebody. I'm going to sign out the way that I always do. Make it your mission to live the life now that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, no one else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.
This show is part of the ICT Podcast Network. For more information, visit ictpod.net.